All right, everyone. Tonight we have guest Ron Musgraves. Am I saying your name right? Your last name, Musgraves?
That is perfect.
Awesome. So we've got Ron Musgraves here. He runs the Pressure Washing Institute. He also runs the largest pressure washing Facebook group on the planet, Pressure Washing Friends. If you guys haven't joined it, be sure to check it out. Super awesome group. Lots of great feedback that's happening in his group. But we have him on today because we want to talk about the sales tips and some of the objections that you might face in the field. Ron's super experienced, and I'm sure he's going to give us a lot of good insight as to how to close some more sales in pressure washing. So Ron, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do now and kind of how you got to where you are, because you did grow the largest pressure washing Facebook group on the planet, which is pretty crazy.
Well, 35 years, but if any, like the guys out there that know my online presence, I've literally been online since, the mid 80s.
Sure.
So more than some guys have been alive, and have had social media going probably since, probably somewhere around 96 in the 1900s. So, I mean, you can find, I probably have more blogs out there than, I'd probably have to be dead for 20 years for somebody to even catch me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why, that's why my social media presence is where it is. The biggest Facebook group, we've SEO'd it off of some of my other sites. I own one of the oldest forums that was online back in 1999. And it was probably at the time the most successful. I wound up buying that a few years back. Obviously forums people say forums are dead, but I got to tell people this, forums aren't dead. They're just not, there's no activity on forums. People are still traveling the forums to resource information.
Absolutely.
Because the information's still there. They're just not maybe as active as what they are, because obviously a platform like Facebook has made it so much easier. And then we have all the other social media platforms that, we build businesses off of. It's kind of funny, but that's, where I started online. And I mean, through that time period, I had 3 divisions of a commercial cleaning business. I did 10 years. I did fleets. Then I stopped doing fleets, and I really became successful. People had to realize that every guy goes through this, where they think that they're going to be the jack of all trades, master of none. And when you find out what your specialty is and you really go after it, like if you really, as a person out there that's listening to this podcast, if you sit there and think about this, I know guys that made millions of dollars cleaning just bus stops. I know a guy that makes $80 million a year that just does kitchen exhaust cleaning. Okay, that's all he does is kitchen exhaust cleaning. He don't try to do it. He doesn't try to wash sidewalks. He doesn't try to wash houses. He just cleans kitchen exhaust. Fleet Wash is the second largest pressure washing company. I'm not going to tell you who the largest is. $796 million annually. Okay,
wow.
And all they do is wash trucks. Okay, and they're not number one. I'm gonna put this out there because I want guys to think about this. If they're not number one at 796, is the company that's the largest doing $1 billion? I'm gonna let some guys do some homework on that and see if they can figure it out. We're gonna throw that out there for guys to go out there and try to find that. Now, the funniest thing is these 2 largest companies that I'm referring to, they're a long way from anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nobody even doing, probably that I know, doing a couple $100 million. So they're stretched out there way ahead of the game as far as the biggest guys. And but that's what I always try to tell the guys out there that are trying to sell. If you're going to try to sell something, pick something and be good at it. Like, one of the first things I tell people in my course, if somebody ever takes my sales course, I always tell them to find the market. Even if you got a niche like cleaning sidewalks, find out what kind of sidewalks you're going to clean. Are you going to start cleaning restaurant sidewalks? Are you going to clean industrial sidewalks? Are you going to clean hospital sidewalks? Are you going to go after parking garages? Decide what that little niche. People use the word niche. I don't really like that word, but if your niche market, you just find that and find what you like to do and do it really well and be successful at it. And that's really the way in this industry you're going to make it. You're going to make the kind of money. Now, and here's a way to prove this: there is no company out there that is making millions of dollars that is trying to do everything. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And you'll find guys out there that may have 8, 9, 10 trucks, but in comparison to somebody like Fleet Wash or some of these other companies, that's a drop in the bucket. They cannot replicate, ma'am, I'll fix that fence for you while I'm washing your house. I'm going to go ahead and take care. We'll redo that gutter for you and put gutter guards in there after I'm washing your house. But we're going to hang Christmas lights in November. It just doesn't work.
There's two things I want to hit on real quick. So, the first of all is, so I didn't know this. So you have a sales course that guys can go through where you specifically teach guys in the exterior cleaning or pretty much anything around pressure washing, cleaning, how to sell. You have a course like that?
I do. And what it is there's probably 3 to 4 segments to it. And
sure, what
I do is some of them are online, so you can watch them. They're free. I don't charge for anything. They can go online. Now, if you want to be mentored, I'm tough. Okay. I'm really tough. And I give guys homework, and see, people want to extract all the information, and they think that it's just as simple as like, Ron, just tell me what's next. Tell me 3 steps down furthermore. I want to go further down the road. And I basically do my thing if I mentor somebody in a homework segment. And it starts with basically, fulfilling that homework, and then I move them to the next step. And so probably in the history of 35 years, very, very few guys have made it. But I can tell you this, the guys that have made it, they're running $1 million companies or more.
That's awesome. And, that's super awesome. I will make sure to anybody that's watching this right now, when this is over, I will leave a link to Ron's sales course and a way to reach out to him if you guys want to reach out to him directly for some more direct sales training. But Ron, I kind of want to jump into this first question that I see it posted in a lot of groups, specifically your group, and so I want to hear it. I'm sure everybody else wants to hear it too, coming straight from you. And that a lot of people, when they go to give an estimate, they're often met with, I think that might be a little bit high. I think I can find it cheaper. Somebody came to my house last year and they did this and it was, half of your cost. What do you tell guys that are new to this when they get met with that objection? Like, how do they respond to that?
You see, the problem with that question is that's a residential question. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I'm primarily a commercial guy. So in the commercial world, and I guess we're going to kind of switch gears here on this. Sure. You won't get met with that in the commercial world. The commercial world is just about a budget. They're forecasting budget, so it's kind of a completely different thing. And I'm just going to tell you this right now. It would drive me nuts to deal with Susie Homemaker, because the bottom line is when this objection that you're talking about is met with apples against oranges. Okay. Sure. They don't understand that, you're going to clean a different way than the person that might have given the normal consumer doesn't understand when they're buying a service, they're buying time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people in the commercial world understand this because they've got to hire a competent contractor or they're going to get fired. Okay. If they hire you because that's their sole job and purpose is to hire purveyors, people to do the service. If you do a poor service, it reflects directly upon them, and then they get fired and lose the job. I don't think people realize that in commercial, because people all too often think that commercial is hacked out and a lowball business, when in reality it's really not. It's more of a higher end. It's more money in the commercial world, and plus because I just told you about budget, these services repeat, and they're repetitive. They repeat over and over and over again. My buddy Jason Evers, though, has a great objection for it. I just can't remember what his objection line was, because he's a residential guru. And you know what? You might want to write Jason Evers' number down.
Yeah, I will.
And see if he'll get on your podcast. He's an international speaker, but he sold his pressure cleaning, window cleaning business about 5 years ago, and then went on tour. He's a great guy to get on there.
Yeah, well,
but my answer to that is I'm going to tell you something. I would be a horrible residential guy because I don't budge on price. I don't give discounts.
Great.
I don't play those games. And that's one of the reasons I would either have an elite clientele if I was a residential guy, of wealthy clientele, or I wouldn't be selling anything, because the first time somebody tried to lower the price on me, that's why I probably have never gone after residential, because those kinds of troubles, they don't exist in the commercial business. They just don't. Guys think they do. But I'm going to tell you, I got to tell you something here. This is going to be very valuable for your viewers. When somebody tells you in the commercial world you lost the agreement because of the price, or you make the assumption that somebody lowballed you, so the next time you lower your prices even lower to go in, if they tell you that, that's a lie. That's the easiest thing for them to tell you, for you to leave them alone, okay? They were never intending on hiring you to begin with, and it was just an easy excuse that they could tell you that your price was too high. Do you understand that?
Right.
It's just an easy way to get you out and to tell you, oh, your price was too high. Have a nice day. You understand?
Yeah.
And your price could have been lower. Okay.
Right. It's just their easy way of basically saying, like, for some reason they didn't trust you or what have you.
That's right.
So,
and here's the reality. Commercial buyer, 90% of the time, knows who they're buying from.
Right. So how would you, so for any of the guys, because it seems like most people will get started in residential and then they may start the transition into commercial. What would you say? Because I do see a lot of those posts too, because this kind of circles back to the same topic of sales, is how do you recommend that guys branch in or start to breach into the commercial market? Because it can be kind of tough, because, even from my perspective as a marketer, it's very difficult. Like, we can't really even run ads to kind of commercial, decision makers.
You mean to tell me that a guy trying to find a $1.5 million contract isn't Googling you?
So is that what you is, because there's definitely something to be said there about, obviously Google Ads, your cost per clicks and conversions and costs go up, but obviously
there's nobody out there looking at Google to procure $1.5 million contract.
So what would you say? What would you say is like the advice that you would give any new guy that's in the game now and wants to branch into commercial work?
The quickest way to branch into commercial work is to go out there and start washing stuff for free.
In commercial.
Correct.
So would you say, like, just going to, like, let's say they want to get into apartment complexes or gas stations, just going in and trying to, like, in-person speak?
Walk up, find the decision maker. If it's an apartment complex, more than likely the person on site doesn't have the authority to make that decision.
Of course.
So walk up and get their permission to do the entryway and to get you in touch with who it is, and show them the video and the before and afters of that entryway, and have that person help you get that information to the decision maker. That is the absolute quickest way to penetrate and to earn their trust. Remember this, okay? All sales is in this entire world, okay, is trust. Zig Ziglar used to say, people like buying from people they like.
Absolutely.
Okay? Zig Ziglar sold cars. Okay, when you bought an object or a material thing, yes, that was important. But now we formulated this whole thing in now where you've got this strange contractor on your property, potentially with your kids, your wife. Maybe you're not home. There is no way that you want to hire somebody you don't trust, not to be in your home or not to be in your commercial building where there's other people in there that you're subjecting to some type of a danger. So they need to trust you, and they need to know that you're going to hire trustworthy people, and they need to know that there's a program that you use to do that. And that's a huge thing for anybody trying to hire, any smart person that's trying to hire a service provider, any smart person.
Right. So,
did you ever look at, I'm going to give us a plug. Go to umccsmartbuyer.com and check that out sometime. That's why I was hoping you were doing a video tonight, because I can show you this brochure. And if your audience just goes to UAMCC.com and they check that out, or actually .org, they're going to look at it. And it's basically questions that you need to ask a cleaning contractor. And if you want help with your sales, all you need to do is go read that brochure. It's free online. It's available for anybody to use if they want to implement it in their program. It's a national organization, so you can join the org. It's free. And I know that's crazy. It's free, but you can join the org and you can use it. It's absolutely free. It's called the Smart Buyer Program. And really, if you read some of these things on the Smart Buyer Program, basically, do you have liability insurance? Can you provide a written agreement if needed? Do you carry workers' compensation? Are you licensed? Do you have references? These might seem like stupid, silly questions, but when you go back to that objection of that Susie homeowner, does she understand that you have workers' compensation? And does she understand that when she hires the other guy for $50 less, maybe he doesn't have workers' compensation? And do you know who's responsible if somebody gets hurt on their property?
Oh, the question.
Yeah, who? If you went onto a property and fell off the roof, hit the pavement, and you wound up dead, who's going to be responsible for it?
I would assume the homeowner, right?
It's going to be the homeowner. The homeowner's going to be liable for it. The homeowner's going to have to answer to the widower, and and basically the funniest thing in the world is they're going to max out the homeowner policy on wrongful death, even though the guy might have fell off the roof because he wasn't complying. Remember, the owners don't have to comply to OSHA regulation, right?
Right.
And when you hired them as the homeowner, you're supposed to know better than to hire somebody and put them on your property without the proper workers' compensation insurance. And lots of guys on here are going to challenge. They're going to, but Ron, we can sign an exclusion in our state. We're not required to have it. Sure, you're not required to have it, but it doesn't mean that they're not responsible for it. It doesn't mean that they're still not responsible for you when you're on their property. They're still going to be responsible for you.
And it's just one of those things that can set you apart, again, like you said, from your competition when you're being met with some of those objections. Like even having those small conversations could be the difference of you closing the sale and not, you know what I mean? Just bringing up certain scenarios like that.
Yeah, I would use, taking back that residential question, I would probably use the Smart Buyer brochure. I would hand it to them and I would say, hey, here's some of the questions you want to ask the guy doing this for $100 less.
I will get that link from you. I tried one of the ones you said. It's not a big deal right now, but I will get the link from you. So anybody watching this video, it'll be in the description or the comments of this video, so you guys can go check out that brochure that he's referring to. So I guess and because you're more in the commercial side, and you said that you don't budge on price, I kind of want to circle back to that. So if let's say that I know it's probably a little bit different for you now because you've been in the industry a while. It's probably not as likely that you make calls. People usually call you, but for some of the people who are breaking into the market, there you go. Awesome. There's the link there in the comments if you're watching the Facebook Live. So for anybody who would be, going, they're going and they go to an apartment complex. Let's say they do the walkway for free, and the decision maker reaches out to them and says, "Hey, you did a great job. We happen to actually need all 18 buildings done. Can you get us an estimate?" So this guy spends half a day writing an estimate out, sends it over, only for it to be met with, "That's way too high." So, and again, I know this is going to be a different scenario for you, but what would you say to the guys that are just getting into that when they're met with that? Because those are typically pretty big estimates, and you're probably going to be met with some objection. So I want to give them some insight to maybe how they could handle that.
Well, let me tell you about the science on this. So when they told you that you were too high, my first thing out of my mouth would be is how much is too high? And then I'm going to ask them, how close were we? So if they don't tell me a percentage, I'm going to try to get it out of them.
Sure.
Because here's the catch in this. All these commercial clients, like in a community management, they're going to have a door number that they associate the numbers with. Okay.
Sure.
On every property, because they take care of identical properties. Let's look at it like this, and let's break it down a little simpler for you. So you go to Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah, I've been to Outback Steakhouse.
You go to Olive Garden?
I've been to Olive Garden, yes.
You go to Walgreens?
I've been to Walgreens a few times.
How many of those have you been out of state?
I've probably been to a couple of those out of state.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Like, it's pretty much, I can expect the same price pretty much anywhere I go.
They're cookie cutter. The properties are the same size.
Right.
They're the same dimensions. People all too often think that community management is a big deal. They think that when you talk about a shopping center, big box stores are 120 feet deep. They're usually about 35,000 square feet. The strip on the side is 60 feet deep. There's usually an average suite is 1,500 to 2,500. Okay. So when you start talking about the square footage, the landlords all figure out their budgets. How do they figure out the rent? By the square footage.
Sure.
They're going to figure out their entire budget by square footage or by the door number if you're talking community management. I'm going to let one of these out of the bag right here for parking garages. It's all about the parking space. If it's a garage with X amount of parking spaces, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. One of the reasons my students are so successful is I know all the prices.
Right. No, and that's
budget.
I want to hone in on that really quickly. So for anybody who may be trying to go after, these commercial properties, like Ron said something very interesting there, and it's that the focal point of this isn't on, the buildings and trying to estimate out the buildings itself. It's the focus of the square foot, because these businesses are dictating everything based on the square foot. So honing in on those figures around the square foot is where you want to be. Or if you're in a parking garage, like you just said, it's going to be based on, how many parking spots there are. Because if you can figure out how to sell based on square foot to one property manager, you're probably going to be able to replicate that and do it to the others, right? And then you'll start to get an understanding of, okay, they might be at here.
Here's what you were missing. And you didn't miss it, but you got it. But here's what you're missing on this part. When you talked about, if I know that manager's community management budget, I now know all 700 properties. I know their numbers. I know the numbers. And if I can figure out how I can work with that number, then I can do work for them. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to say pass. Sometimes the numbers are too low. Sometimes you got to say, well, Susie, this is why your places are dirty, because the budget isn't high enough. And you got to get them to move the budget. And the way you do that is you go do a sample cleaning or demonstration and show them. And then they go, wow, Ron, you know what? Will you do me a favor? Go over to this other property and do this building. I need to show my boss. And you go do that building for them and you show them the difference, because you give them the before and afters. You maybe leave a space dirty, and you give her and load her with that information. She goes back to the people who are controllers, write the budgets and up the budgets, and she shows them that the current provider that just did it last month isn't doing the job properly. And maybe the reason why is because they're not buying enough time. So they just wasted money on a property that was done last month, because she sent you to a property that was just done. She's going to do that because that's what she's going to do to test you.
That's something that, I want to focus on that for a second. So that's something very important, like you said. So there's going to be times where guys are going to go out and they're going to give estimates on commercial properties. It could be gas stations, they could be shopping plazas, they could be apartment complexes. And if they're met with the prices too high, and you finally figure out where they want to be based on their square foot, and maybe they're close, maybe they're not, the way to overcome that is, well, that is why, like you said, Susie, that's why your properties are still dirty, because the company that did come in here and do it for your budget, they're just not doing it the right way. They don't have the skill set. They don't have the right equipment. I've been doing this for X amount of years, et cetera, et cetera. So like, if you really want your property to be as clean as it possibly could, you really need to raise your budget.
Let me tell you, let me focus on this a little bit further. So we've all been to the fair. Somewhere in our lineage, grandma, grandpa, Susie, mom, somebody bought a Kirby vacuum cleaner. Okay. we all know that when we watch the Ginsu knife chop the block in half and slice the tomatoes, we watch the guy put the wax on the car, light the car on fire. Shortly after the demonstration is done, what happens?
several people buy the product immediately.
They stand in line. You and I may have never stood in that line. We wanted to, but we're just not guys. We're not guys that can stand in line.
Right.
So we looked at the line. If there was no line, we may have bought the Ginsu knife or the polished or whatever for the car. But there was a line of people standing there to buy. And I don't think that service providers understand the power of demonstration is all. It really is a ton of your acquisition costs. Because think about it like this. If I get a restaurant manager that has the decision and I show him that his place is dirty, I don't have to keep returning to him and calling him about how I'm going to clean the place. He usually looks up at me and says, when can you get this done for me? Okay. It's over with. I don't have to go back to him 8 times to try to close him. It's either he's going to buy today or he's going to think about it and he's going to buy tomorrow. But there's no more calling him back 5 times, 10 times in a row to find out if he wants to accept my estimate, because he knows exactly what I can do and he's seen it. And right there, instant trust on what you can do is met. Now he knows. The problem you have with it that you got to overcome is he has a guy doing it, and the guy's doing a bad job, and he thought he had a good relationship with the guy, so he wants to talk to that guy and find out what this is. And so when you do follow up the call, you need to already know, hey, he called his guy. And I basically call him back and say, so what'd your guy say? Sometimes they chuckle. What do you mean, my guy?
Yeah.
You know, the guy who was doing your sidewalks, you had to call him, and I'm just wondering if you'd call him and, you know, let's hear what he had to say, you know. And 9 times out of 10, that contractor will either fill him with excuses or tell him, well, I can clean a spot like that for you, but can the guy do the whole place like that? You know, he'll make him believe that, okay, you're not going to clean the whole place like that. And then there's when you got your close and you say, okay, well, are you going to sign this contract tomorrow if I clean this entire front area here for you for free right now? Or are you going to sign this maintenance contract? That's when you just, you know, shit or get off the pot type of thing, you know.
You kind of force their hand.
And there it is. It's either he either buys then or he doesn't. But guess what? You're on your way to your next one. You're on your way to the next Ginsu knife demonstration where you're cutting the block in half and, you know, people are standing in line. And if you repeat that process, you're going to wind up with maintenance contracts. Maintenance contracts, if you get a restaurant, you get 60 of them, you have a $250,000 route that you can run by yourself. Single operator.
That's and we're kind of coming up to the end of this, and that was the last part of that, because we kind of talked about how to approach them, how to overcome some of the commercial objections. But there's the important thing there is, I think that some people may miss is, even if you go to that apartment complex and you do overcome the objections, you do get the job and you clean it. It shouldn't. What you're saying is it shouldn't be a one and done. This should be something that you're trying to get these property managers into some kind of contract. And this is a field I know nothing about, so that's why I wanted you to elaborate.
Thousands of accounts.
Right.
I don't do one and done.
There it is.
I don't even talk about one and done. If they want a one and done, Ty might be listening. Ty Schnell is a good buddy of mine. He's a competitor. I send them to Ty.
Sure.
And when Ty cleans them up, I put him on a maintenance contract.
Yeah. So
and Ty gets mad all the time.
So if
he goes, you made me clean that mess up, and then you got him on a maintenance contract. You know, that's it.
So if there's one other little part question. So if I called Ron, I said, hey Ron, you know, I own, you know, the Walmart Plaza, and it's got a couple other little stores attached to it. You know, the guy that normally does it, he's away. I can't get a hold of him. I just need you to come clean it this one time. You're going to refer me out because you only want to deal with contracts because, you know, obviously the reoccurring revenue is where you're at. Are there any objections?
It would depend. Here's how I would answer that for you. It would depend on this type of client, okay? If this guy owned 300 shopping center and his guy was gone and I was going to help, I'm moving right in. I might clean it for free. You know what I mean? While your guy's away, you got anything else you need cleaned for free, let me know. And by the way, we'll get your house cleaned up too if you want, for free.
Right.
Your mansion.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to move right in on that because I know if he's doing maintenance, you know, I've got an opportunity now to start building a relationship because, you know, nothing's forever, right?
Right. Right, exactly, and I kind of want to, I kind of do want to still focus on that because I think a lot of people get hung up on that, and I've told guys this, all the time, especially when we talk about Facebook ads, because as you and I had a conversation about this call beforehand, like, I run ads, Facebook ads for people. I have a course where I teach people how to run Facebook ads, but there are, I'll be honest, 80% of the time I do turn away the people who ask me to run their ads, and it's because they're just not in a position yet because they haven't done some of the things like you're referring to, right? Like they may have just created a Facebook page, but they have no work that they can furnish. And then they say, well, I need to advertise to get work so I can post work on social media. I'm like, no, not at all. Like you need to go do all of your friends, all your families. You need to get yard signs down in all your, if for the residential guys, and you need to start doing more free work because I had Jeff on here a couple weeks ago, and Jeff works exclusively off word of mouth. And the reason being is because he just does so much work. And the more work you do, paid, free, it doesn't matter. It's just going to generate more work. So like you just said, to your point, if you have somebody that reaches out to you, or you might get, a property manager that's going to let you do their, their sidewalks or something like that, offer to, if you can, and you have the time and you're not booked out, make time to do something for them for free, because not only is it going to build that relationship, but, it's going to produce more content and everything that goes around with that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of value, and people get too hung up in being saying, I got to charge for everything, but there are occasions where doing stuff for free will pay dividends. It just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I don't give discounts. I'll give something away, but I won't give a discount. Discounts are, if you give them away, they're always expected. If you give something away, they're not expected.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I try to tell guys that all the time. I said, if you're willing, think about this. So if their budget is X amount and you're willing to go 10% on it on one project, yep, they think then you're going to be willing to go 10% on every project. And I just, that's just not going to work for them, right. And guys don't understand that and then the guys that go, well, but I overpriced it and then I came down. You're just playing into the 99-cent guy. Cause here's my last sales tip because I imagine we're short on time.
Yeah, sure.
This builds so much distrust, and people don't realize this.
Mm-hmm.
If you give a high price and then you're willing to hack it 20 or 30%, that is telling me you are trying to rip me off to begin with. Okay.
Yep.
And I always get, I always try to tell guys, if you're playing that game, and sometimes you win because sometimes you get the high price, and sometimes how many of these are you not getting because you came down, and then the person's upset because, you came down and they thought, man, you're trying to take advantage of me. So they didn't hire you anyway. And they got nothing nice to say about you. And then they wind up giving it to the guy that's even lower than you. So you just gave more credit to the $99 guy because you made him look legit, because now they don't know what to believe. You just took a $1,000 job and said, I'll do it for $600. Well, then they just go hire the guy for $350, because they think, oh, he's being fair. And really, they're not going to get their stuff done the right way for the $350. Give the people the right, fair price, make money, get referrals, and move on and make people happy. That's my advice to you guys, to all the guys out there. Quit trying to sit there and say, well, I'm the highest price guy, and then you're playing that money game all the time. That I always try to tell guys, how much time you waste playing that game. I mean, you waste time. I mean, it really is. My customers always know that, hey, Ron, and this is the way you want to be with customers. Go out and wash that, bill me for the initial cleanup, and let's get that on a 30-day maintenance package. They have no idea what I'm going to charge them yet. But guess what? They know the price is going to be right because I already know what their budgets are. I already know how they run their operations. We have price codes. People don't realize that in commercial business. Every customer has a price code. Some guys will ask me, well, what's it going to be for that shopping center? Well, for what company is it? Because Kimco has a 1 cent budget and another company has an 8 cent budget. I ain't going to work for Kimco for 1 cent a foot. You know what I mean? But if there's a company out there at 8 cents a foot, I'm all over it. And I always try to tell these guys that that's how it really works. That's the only way it works.
Yeah. That's Super good insight about not lowering your price, because it does build that distrust. And I've seen it in my marketing agency when I first got started, and I think a lot of guys experience in that in any industry, that, you know, obviously you're trying to make it on your own, and you kind of get to a point where it's like kind of make or break, like I got to make this, and so you start to kind of play that game. But what will happen is, like you said, is you'll start to build the distrust, and you know, when you say a price and you stick to it, the customers that should be your customers will be your customers, and they'll trust you and your price forever. And the ones that are just too cheap, that's okay. Like that's going to be for somebody else. But yeah, Ron, we are going to finish up here. I have one last question for you. Do you offer any one-on-one coaching for guys who want to get into commercial?
As I said earlier, I'm tough. If you're willing to jump through the hoops, I'm willing to pretty much help anybody.
All right. Well, I will get your email. You can put it in the comments too, because obviously
I don't use email.
How should people reach out to you?
The only way to get a hold of me is to text me. I don't use email. I'm a big text marketing guy too. I love using text messaging and MMS. As a matter of fact, here you guys go. This text this 72727 type in Wash Expo, one word, and then you could be in my texting, and you'll see some of the things I send out as far as texting goes.
Nice. That's
email's
really cool.
dead. Email's dead, man. Email's gone. Email's like the telephone book. You know what I'm saying? Do you even know what a telephone book is?
Yeah, we used to have those when I was a kid.
When you were like 4?
Yeah, when I was like 4. They probably went away when I was probably 6 or 7. That is really cool, guys. Yeah, so Ron did leave his phone number here in the comments. I'll make sure that I include it in the YouTube video. And yes, you can text 72727 and you text Wash Expo, and you'll get in Ron's his text group there, and he's got some really good stuff, guys. Ron, thank you so much for taking 30 minutes out of your evening to be on this. I'm sure a lot of people learn quite a bit from you. And yeah, so I really appreciate having you on.
Hey, there's 4 guys on right now. I see 4 guys on right now.
Yep.
Okay. If those 4 guys right now leave a message right now, if they just leave a message and say, hey, I will send them a closer hat.
There you go. Anybody who is watching this right now, if you
right now,
if you
not
say,
hey, when it goes off live, not when the live goes off.
Yeah, we'll specify. Hold on, we have 5 now. So anybody who says hey in the chat, right? Ron will send you a closer hat. Personally send it to you if you say hey in the chat right now. But once this goes off live, it is no longer valid. I don't want you to get a ton of text messages saying where's my hat, and you get 100 of those. So it's only in here. Here we go. Lee Hope, he just came in. He said great video, guys. There you go. Ron's gonna hook you up, get you a closer hat. We'll keep it on here for a second.
Yeah.
It
was good. It was good talking to you, man. I appreciate you doing this for your group and for the industry. It's cool stuff, man. I think one of the things I want to say is I think Sean understands. I think he understands marketing. I think in today's marketing or today's sales or mastering game, you have to give the value away in order to get it in return. And it goes back to that. This is another Zig Ziglar thing. If you give people and solve their problems, what they're going to, in return, they're going to reciprocate and they're going to give stuff back to you. That's how the world works, guys.
Exactly.
I think sometimes people think business is trying to take advantage or come one over on somebody else. That is a lie. That's a lie. It's fair. Business has to be fair. If business isn't fair and both parties are happy, you're not running a business.
And that applies to every industry, because like you and I spoke with earlier today, the way that I've been able to grow my business within this particular niche of the industry and this group in particular is I start by providing everybody value. Anybody that comes across me in the pressure washing community, they're seeing me not because I'm trying to sell them something, it's because I'm providing value first. Somebody is asking a question that of a problem that they have, whether it's social media, advertising, or marketing, and I will provide all the value that I absolutely can. I tell people, message me all the time. It's free to message me. If you're having an issue with ads and marketing and signs and any of that stuff, you can always message me, because I at the end of the day, I just want to help people. And like you said, when you do stuff like that, it ends up paying forward. The same thing applies to pressure washing. If you focus on the money, you're going in the wrong direction. You have to focus on solving problems for people, and the money will come just as a byproduct of all of that.
Absolutely.
Lee Hope just asked in the chat real quick before we end this. Ron, are you going to be in Atlanta in August for the huge convention?
I will not be at the huge convention, but I will be in September on the 11th and 12th. I think the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. I will be at the PWNA show in NOLA in Louisiana. I will be there, and we'll be there large. We're going to be there the whole time. We're going to have a blast. And then, guys, if you want to check out nationalcleaningexpo.com, that'll give you all my other dates. Let me give this plug here really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got my own show in November on the 4th and 5th right here in Phoenix. Then we go to we'll be in the Panhandle in Florida, and we'll be doing a show there with Trudy and Shane. Then we'll be back at Washmark University in February, and then we're going to be doing the Young Guns again, and we believe we're going to be doing the Young Guns this time. It might be in Atlanta, but we're thinking about South Carolina, and all those dates will be up here soon. But those are my 4 and 5 shows that I'll be doing. Basically, during the winter, we do a lot of the hands-on,
right,
in-person training. Right now, guys, it's so hot. Everybody's so busy. I'm not into doing a lot of the training right now. We can do stuff virtually. We can do stuff online like this. But, it's really right now, man, people are just too busy. Except I'll give a plug out this. There's a lot of new guys in the industry. If you got slow right now, don't worry about that. That's normal for a new person to be slow in July and the beginning of August because it's just that time of the year. That's all it is. Once you've got an established business, you'll probably play catch up on your schedule and you'll stay busy and then it'll pick back up again and you'll never notice that there was any lull. But even the busiest guys, even the biggest and busiest guys out there right now are not getting the call volume that they once were last month. They're just playing catch up now because they were already on a 6-week backup, so
Ron,
so guys, that's just the industry.
Will you drop that link in the comments? And anybody watching this on YouTube, that link that he's referring to the schedule of these shows, I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video as well. But yeah, I need to look into some of these. I should probably attend some. That'd be pretty insightful to do.
Well, if you want to come out to any of them, man, I can get you a speaking spot. I know a guy.
Yeah, I'll reach out. I'll definitely reach out to you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Ron Musgraves, everyone. Thanks again, Ron, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. It was great.
Yeah,
have a great day, man.
I'll see you guys later.